Welcome back to another edition of the Course Creation Incubator Podcast. I'm your host, Gina Onativia, here to get you psyched about your course creation, your marketing, help you build the course-based business of your dreams. We just got back from Tristan's very first tennis tournament. So Tristan's our 8-year-old, and it was absolutely nerve-wracking and awesome at the same time. It was for kids under 10, so many stinking cute kids running around the courts. And Tristan was in there playing full out. He never got discouraged, and I love seeing his little fist pumps every time something went his way. And I thought, everything's going to be okay. This kid's got this. He never looked over to us except once to give a thumbs up as if to say, I got this. Now, I also got introduced to tennis parents for the first time. And Alex, my husband, and I had a conversation before we left, and we said to ourselves, we're going to keep our smiles on the entire time. And when Tristan's done, we're going to say, great job, let's go get some ice cream. I literally read a story from a coach, a kid coach, that said exactly what you're supposed to do as a parent after every competitive match. You say, great job, let's go get some ice cream. But some of these other parents were doing that. They were literally lining up against the fence and coaching these little kids. Now, as a raging extrovert, this was an exercise in restraint for me. And I felt like Alex and I did really great. We stayed calm and we stayed chill. Now, I tell this story because I think it's a great metaphor for course creation, because I think a lot of times we might get overexcited or overcomplicate something that can be simpler. We can really chill out in terms of our course creation. And I think one of the great ways to simplify course creation is to reuse and repurpose what you already have. Because a lot of times we say to ourselves, and I know this because I hear from course creators every day, this has to be the greatest course ever, A++ work. It's got to be from scratch because I really need to deliver for my students. And it's just not the truth. We've talked about here in this podcast, and we talk about it a lot because we can't talk about it enough, honestly, that done is better than perfect. And I'd rather you get to market and get that feedback and reap all the benefits of what it feels like to sell your course or your coaching program or your workshop, whatever you're putting together. And going to market is better than sitting and asking what if or what could have been, because I've heard a lot of what ifs and what could have been stories, especially in the last few weeks. So this episode is about getting to market quickly and efficiently using what you have. And I've got 3 ways to help you do it. So I'm going to talk you through it, and you can think through what you already have as you're listening to me rant in your ear. And while you're listening to this, think through what you've already got that maybe you can repurpose. Or if there's somebody who knows your content and knows what you've already produced, because at this point, I've got a couple of team members who know my content. And by the way, my team members are always coming back to me saying, Gina, you've got all this content. Can we repurpose it? Can we make freebies out of it? Mini courses, starter courses. My team is always asking me this because I've produced so much. And I got into this really unhealthy mindset that because I can produce content in such a rapid rate and so easily, I'll just keep making it from scratch again and again. And guys, it's just not true. Learn from my mistakes. There was a point a couple years ago where I was creating a different freebie or a different PDF each and every month, and then really saturating my people, like just overwhelming them with new information instead of taking what I already had and repurposing it thoughtfully. So again, we're learning from my mistakes each and every time, each and every week with this podcast. If you're thoughtful about repurposing what you have and putting that into paid offers and packages, you'll be far better off. You'll get to market faster, which is exactly what we want, and you'll get that feedback, like I was saying, that you really need from your students. Then you can continue to update and revise and build your business and build up your customer journey. Now, if you're feeling resistance to this, think about what you teach your clients. For example, if you're a weight loss coach, you're probably not telling someone to wait until everything is perfect. You'd rather have them take the first step now because you know that starting now will help them get results faster than if they wait until everything is fallen into place, right? The same is true with creating your course. You can absolutely stay in idea or planning or creation mode for weeks, months, or gosh, even years. Or you can start now with what you already have. All right, I think you get the point here. So let's talk about those 3 different ways, and just 3 in terms of this podcast. There's more. So hopefully this will get your cogs churning a little bit and your mind going. And the first piece that I want you to think about to repurpose is a classic marketing webinar. So inevitably in every class of the 6-week accelerator, I get a few course students coming to me and saying that they've got a webinar that they've already set up. And maybe they sold into coaching or group coaching, but not necessarily a course. Or they sold into a smaller course and they think, I can take the idea of what I was marketing in this webinar and repurpose it. I was like, great idea. Now, the question I want you to ask, though, if you're repurposing a webinar, and when I say webinar, I mean a masterclass as well, a training where someone signed up and registered, you delivered some added value, and there's some kind of call to action at the end. So more than likely, they paid for something at the end of this webinar or masterclass. So my question for you is, if you're going to repurpose a marketing webinar or masterclass, is where do you need to add the meat? Because a lot of times in marketing masterclasses, we want to leave in added value that's incomplete. So if a masterclass is incomplete, where are you going to fill in between the lines to make it a true value add course? A lot of times it could be as simple as giving them the full value. You're no longer holding back, in other words. So maybe you're filling in the content that's in between that you left out. So for example, if I was teaching a masterclass about ways to start up a podcast, I might do 5 steps to starting your first podcast, 5 steps to fast tracking your first podcast as this webinar. Now, I would leave it incomplete if it's a marketing webinar, because maybe at the end of it, I'm selling into a course about building your podcast. So I would give you the 5 phases I've used to work on my podcast, but I wouldn't give you all the information in that marketing webinar. However, if it's a paid course, I would talk about brainstorming episodes. I would talk through the process, and I would give the complete detail. I would include PDFs to help you plan your podcast. I would give you an example of how I've planned my own podcast. I'd give you my actual planning templates. You see the difference, right? This is free versus paid. So when it comes down to it, a free webinar, I could just go through my 5 steps and sprinkle in a little information, versus if it's paid, I'll go deeper in depth and I'll give you my demos, my handouts. I'll give you my full process. So this is what you've got to think through. If you're going through something that's free to something that's paid and filling in those details, you want to do that. You want to give them the information because they've earned it. They've actually put down their credit card for it. So you're not pitching them to go to the next step. They're ready for the next step. They paid for it. They're buying this course from you. So that's the first thing you can repurpose, is a marketing class or a marketing webinar. And a great example of this is Susie Menkes, who's been on the podcast before. She has her Healthy Little Sleepers course, and she's got a whole bunch of different programs that she offers. She's incredible. And she teaches several monthly classes for newborn sleep. And her presentations in itself are amazing, guys. She's got so much great information, wonderful slides. She already really delivers even in these free workshops. And she's ahead of the game because she's adding so much value each month. And I know for Susie, she's repurposed those free classes, adding a coaching component in different pieces. So she was able to take those free workshops and translate that into a different kind of paid course for her. Okay, a second way to repurpose what you've already got is to take an existing workshop that you have. So these could be paid workshops, smaller classes, and combining them to create a bigger course. I had an accelerator student, Martha, who did this. So she had, I think, 3 smaller classes. She bundled them together to create a bigger package in a course, and she was able to sell that as a paid workshop. So maybe you have $27 classes or $40 classes, and you can package them up and say you're selling them for over $100. Now, when you do something like this, you want to think in terms of, how do you make it a more cohesive course? How do you tie these 3 or 4 or 5 different pieces together? What's the through line? Maybe you're doing coaching calls or Q&A. Maybe there's a community, maybe all of the above. Think about how you're making it a cohesive course instead of something that feels like 3 different fractured workshops. Remember, an online course is a cohesive experience that leads them on a journey, that leads your student on a journey from end to end. And that journey includes application, handouts, PDFs that you can use. So think through what's that cohesive journey and transformation. I have another student who did this, Megan Helmsley, who I like to talk about, who created the Trimming Donkey Hooves course. She had a bunch of different material that she taught from different classes. She put together the material to create a beginner course. And there was a through line of the journey with her welcome experience, why I've put this together for you, this is how to get you through the course, why this is important. She created all that as part of her beginner's course. So your students won't know that you have all these different pieces and classes that you've been paid to do. So sometimes I get students who come to me and say, well, I've been teaching at a university or I've been teaching these classes online. Can I just put them together? And the answer is abso-freaking-lutely, as long as you pull them together into a cohesive transformation. And then a third and final way, and trust me, there's more than this. You're going to discover, oh, wait, I've got this piece hanging out in my closet. Let me take it out, hang it back up, zhuzh it, and then I've got a course out of it, right? And a third way is a video series. So say you've created some video content or email marketing campaigns. Maybe you did a challenge with a bunch of videos. You can wrap this up into a smaller course. The same principles apply. What's the journey? What's the story that I'm telling here? What's the through line or piece that pulls it all together so it feels like a cohesive course and not just a bunch of stuff that I'm pulling together, right? Because I need to get an offer out there. So if you do have a video series, what can you add to it or adapt about it to make it feel like a complete course? Maybe an extra training to go into more detail. Here's another place where you can add those worksheets or a workbook or swipe files, templates, different handouts. This is a great opportunity for you to augment what you already have and truly make it applicable, right? What can you add to it or adapt about it to make it feel like a complete course? Maybe an extra training to get into more detail, okay? Because maybe you went a little surface on those videos initially. Worksheets or a workbook or different PDFs, templates, swipe copy, cheat sheets, grid comparisons, right? How can you augment what you've already put out there to make it feel like a really juicy course that they can go through? So that's another piece that you can bring together and put out as a paid offer. So remember, we're committing to putting ourselves out there, to getting an offer done, whatever it looks like. You can go back and listen to the episode where I talk about how to trial out an offer in 30 days. You can repurpose the content you already have, get that offer out to market in just 30 days. Now, next week, I'm going to bring on someone who's going to help you see your business in another light. She's my business coach, Patty Vogan-Geyer. I can't wait for you to listen to this interview that we've done together. Please subscribe so you don't miss that episode or any other awesome episode. And if you've got a lot of value out of these podcasts, I would love for you to leave me a review. Until next week, go create, be you and be brilliant, and get it done.